Hello and welcome to Upfront. My name is Dean Thullner-Veljacic and we are filming on the unceded Nanaimo traditional territory. On this episode of Upfront, I have the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Joshua Holloway. If you go to Josh's Facebook page, in his About section, he states, 80s pop theater kid energy. Josh likes to spend most days writing for beloved global brands. He has honed his skills in crafting scroll-stopping brand campaigns that leave a lasting impact. At night, you'll find him producing and performing original music. Please, hi, Josh, how are you?
I'm good, how are you, Dean?
Good, thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure, love being here.
So perhaps let's start off the interview. You could inform the audience a little bit about yourself.
Totally. So I was raised here in Nanaimo, BC, really proud to be an Islander and loved growing up here. And I, like you said, I sort of split my time between my day-to-day job, which is working for an advertising agency as a copywriter. So I write stories for brands, and that's a lot of fun.
You have an incredible copyright resume. So if anyone's looking for a copywriter, Google Josh Holloway. You've got a great career behind you, and it looks like it's going to be great moving forward.
Thanks, Dean.
Yeah, of course.
It was really kind of an amazing year as far as that was concerned, because last year I launched a musical with Tim Hortons to celebrate their 60th anniversary, nice. Which was fun, because it was like the two parts of my life, the advertising side and the musical side, coming together in a really sweet way. And that got some sweet recognition, including being nominated for a Canadian Screen Award.
Oh, you've won a lot of awards. Seriously, you have a great resume.
Anyway,
good
thanks,
work.
Dean.
Yeah, okay. So what about your music career? I want to hear about this.
Totally. My music career started off as just a piano player when I was a kid. So I started learning classical and jazz and a little bit of pop when I was 7. I kicked off. My mom had a keyboard when I was a kid, so she would prop me up when I was little, and I'd get started that way. And then when I was around maybe 10 or 11, I wanted to try singing and playing, because I found that there were a lot of musicians, Elton John, big one, who I looked up for lots of reasons, but also because he was an amazing musician, and the way he could shred on a piano and sing at the same time was admirable. So I was kind of inspired to do that, and a dear friend of mine, another local musician named Kendall Patrick, who you might know, she at the time was working at the after-school care that I was enrolled in. And she taught me how to play and sing and write up chords and arrange music that way. So from about 12, 13 onward, I started playing piano and singing at the same time. And then around 13, I discovered musical theater, which was, then the rest was history. As far as discovering theater, it was a moment where I went, okay, I've been looking for something. Like, you know that feeling where you're pulled towards something and you're not sure what it is, and then you land exactly where you need to be.
Get that tingling feeling in the back of your neck.
Yes, totally. So discovering musical theater was that for me.
So as a musician, what genre would you describe yourself in?
Such a good question. It's a little bit transmutable depending on where I am. As a self-produced musician, because I've released an album of my own and a second one is coming up, I really lean into 80s synth pop, like that's listed in my bio on Instagram and stuff. Because my mom raised me on Duran Duran and Thompson Twins and Madonna.
80s, for sure.
80s,
yeah, classics.
Yeah, totally.
So at what point did you realize that you actually had a voice? I mean, you have an incredible voice. I was judging with you last week for Nanaimo Idol, the indie entertainment Nanaimo Idol, and we all had the pleasure of you singing there, and I was absolutely amazed. Like, some people can sing, some people can really sing. You've got a tremendous voice and tremendous stage presence. When did that light go on for you?
Thanks. I think it really coincided with discovering theater and then being on stage more. Because as a piano player, I really spent a lot of time just playing in my room, practicing a lot, and then singing, I would do it. It was like an individual activity. But theater was when I got to introduce those skills to an audience, and it was when I realized I might have something here.
But there must have been some people in your past, like your teachers, that really saw this and nurtured that for you. Because not every child who has talent is lucky enough to fall into a position where they're recognized or they're nurtured moving forward.
Totally. In a huge way, I think, tying it to musical theater, Eliza Gardner, who's now a professor at VIU, she was directing a lot of shows, and Manda Chelmack as well, a local director. They supported me really early on to push myself further and break out of my shell a little, because there were times where I was a little bit shy or a little bit nervous to really get out there, and they made me feel like I could. they were huge inspirations for me.
Well, you mentioned Elton John as an inspiration, but you are kind of jazzy as well.
Yes.
So who were some of the great jazz musicians or singers that might have inspired you?
I think if I go back as far as singers are concerned, Ella Fitzgerald, I know she's probably everybody's inspiration. She is just like top shelf for me. Frank Sinatra is a big one, and Kurt Elling, who might not be like as well known to the everyday person, but as far as a jazz singer is concerned, he's like my favorite blend of theatricality and like flawless technique brought together. So it really like tickles both sides of my brain. Kurt Elling is a huge inspiration, and Stacey Kent. Yeah.
Great. Well, you had the opportunity to go to New York.
Yes.
What was it like for a young kid in Nanaimo to all of a sudden land in New York going to, was it theater school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which theater school did you go to in New York?
I went to AMDA, so it was the American Musical and Dramatic Academy.
Not easy to get into.
No,
Right.
no, I was unbelievably flattered and amazed and honored that they chose me, and they offered a partial scholarship too to make it easier for me to go, because they know that it's not cheap to be able to go to Manhattan to study, so that made it more possible. And as far as what it was like as a small town kid moving there, it was the best culture shock ever.
I'm sure.
It was fabulous. It took a lot of getting used to, because there's a way of being in a city like that and a confidence you have to embody to succeed that is a non-negotiable. You have to sit in that way of being pretty quickly, you know, especially if you want to be taken seriously and if you want to progress in whatever career field you're in.
Reminds
whether
me of
it's
that
theater or
show Fame.
Oh,
right?
yes.
It must have been kind of similar to that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but let's be clear here. You didn't get chosen for theater school out of luck. You got chosen because of your talent. And so how was that experience for you with working with these incredible, talented people in New York?
Really good, really good. Because of course, because the standard at a school like that is so high, and the expectations are high too, I went from feeling confident about what my skills could accomplish here in Nanaimo, and in Vancouver a little bit too, to like the biggest stage possible. And I went, oh, okay, I thought I had like something going here, but it turns out there's so much potential. There's so much room to grow. I had some amazing instructors that would often find ways of pulling on, just like any actor, right? They would get to know you personally as a student, which I loved. Any good professor does, where they get to know you personally and understand your backstory, and then use that to weave into the character work that you do. Because a lot of what I did there was, it's a musical theater school, but it's also a heavy lean on acting, which I had done a lot of in the past, but mostly like a little bit of film work and then theater here on the island. So I felt pushed in a good way. And it also was an opportunity for me to meet other people just like me from all over the world. Because the great thing about New York is it's like any big city where 50% or more of the population isn't from there. Everybody moves there to succeed in whatever career field they choose. So you get this incredibly diverse perspective of the world, this amazing friend group of like fabulous different perspectives that maybe you haven't experienced before. For me as a 21-year-old, being from the island, I was meeting people with lives and stories and talent and drive that inspired me in a way that couldn't have happened if I hadn't gone there.
Well, very much fundamental foundation building, right?
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things I've noticed about you, and I don't know you that well, but in the short time that I've had the pleasure of knowing you, you are exceedingly kind and you're very polite, and it appears to me that you must have had someone in your life who was there and had your back and was there to be able to facilitate you moving forward and giving you all the right ethics and decorum and the ability to be this individual that you are. Truly, you're a very authentic, kind person. So I'm thinking that might have been your mom.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So you were
Big
lucky
time.
to have your mom. Was your mom a single mom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Uh-huh.
My parents split up when I was 5 or 6, so essentially single mom.
Well, how fortunate, because not every mother identifies with an artistic, flamboyant, creative child. So what was that like? What was that relationship like? And how did that come to fruition?
Thanks for asking. I think my mom is, I'm grateful that I get to say my mom is my hero. Not everybody gets to say that about their parents overall. I know that there are situations, especially for queer kids that grow up with a single parent or both parents, where there can be a tension or a stress around just being themselves. So early on, before I ever came out, before I ever, started living authentically the way that I wanted to in my later teen years and stuff, my mom set this foundation for me around humanistic, like humanism above all else, which is that people are inherently good. What's the word? Innocent until proven guilty. Right. So to not go through the world, ideally, not go through the world assuming that you're in danger or at risk because of other people, and assume people's best intentions as often as you can. Which was a really interesting thing, because it meant that when I did come out, I ended up coming out with the perspective, luckily, that I was going to be okay because people are good. Granted, it's not always the case, and I've been proven wrong. But it's character building to have that happen. And my mom also she's the kind of person where she has this super duality about her, where as a single mom, she had to be both kind of mom and dad. And when I was a kid, I would see her make that switch sometimes of like I fell off my bike one time and chipped my tooth. And I fell off my bike, and I remember it was just practicing, right? I fell off my bike, and she was in mom mode in that moment. And she went, "Are you okay? Let's go ahead and get you in. We'll clean you up. We'll get you together." And then once I'd calmed down and stopped crying, I remember she sat me down and she goes, "Okay, so you're going to get back on the bike and you're going to keep practicing." And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. She said, no, you can, and you're going to get back on the bike. And that crossing between empathy, sweetness, softness, kind of motherly qualities into like, okay, sport, like, you're okay. You got to get back on and keep going. Metaphorically speaking, that has ended up being the theme of how she's played in my life, my whole life, which is being there to help me lick my wounds when I am suffering or going through something. And then once like the sun is above the horizon, she's like, "Great, now let's get into action. You can do this." I actually don't think I would have auditioned for that school in New York at all if she hadn't believed so much in me that I would be able to get in.
Well, you're truly fortunate. You know, we know statistically that 40% of the youth that are on the streets in BC are of LGBTQ, which is always shocking to me, because 85% of the population in Canada is very accepting to LGBTQ2SAI+. But it kind of breaks my heart to think that that other 12% of the population is still negatively affecting.
Impactful.
Yeah, impactful and negatively affecting our youth, and as a result, they're on our streets, which is trauma, which can lead to homelessness, can lead to addiction. It's quite sad. So, as you know, I'm producing an event called Glitter on September 12th at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. And this event is going to be in support of Foundry Nanaimo. So I want to read something so the audience understands this. Foundry Nanaimo will be hosted by Kwamut Lalem Child and Family Services. At Foundry, this new clinic, multiple service providers and organizations will work together to provide a variety of services to youth ages 12 to 24 and their families. Foundry Nanaimo will provide and support the health and wellness needs of our youth and their families in the Nanaimo area. Now, to be clear, this is a free clinic and it is completely confidential. We understand in Nanaimo that we have one child psychologist, and despite the fact that our hospital, NRGH, does a fantastic job of getting these at-risk youth on their feet, reluctantly, they have to shake the parent's hand and tell them there's only one psychiatrist. When this clinic opens, it's literally going to save lives. Joshua, you're performing in Glitter. What made you step up and volunteer for this heartwarming event?
When you called me about the event and you mentioned that it was in support of Foundry, admittedly, I was kind of naive and didn't know how impactful Foundry was, and that might be a little bit of a sign of the importance of this cause, because if I were a young queer person again, like in my teens, I would have used a resource like this all the time. I would have really leaned on services like this, because even though I'm lucky that I had a parent that really supported me, and growing up I felt most of the time like I could be myself to a degree. There were a lot of periods where, even though I felt a sense of belonging artistically, I didn't feel like very many people saw me as a queer person or understood what it was like to live that way. Because this is going on, like I came out going on 10 years ago, and in 10 years a lot changes. Things, if I were 18 now, entirely different experience than...
I'm 63.
I know you know.
So,
You're probably like...
So when I was young, to be clear, it was against the law to be gay.
Exactly.
And you could go to prison for 11 years. And it wasn't until 1969 that the rights had changed, but that rights and the fight for equality has gone on pretty close to now.
Completely.
So you're going to be performing.
Yes.
And I understand that you're going to be performing with a new character.
Totally.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. So a couple of years ago, I started dabbling in the world of drag because as a queer person and feeling a sense of like flexibility in gender identity and wanting to play with that a bit, I felt like drag was a great gateway to doing that. And also, I idolize drag queens. I love RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm a huge fan of Trixie and Katya, particularly as a comedic duo. They're fabulous. So realizing how much I loved drag, I thought, gosh, I would love to experiment in this art form. And I tried it a couple of years ago. I did a show here in Nanaimo with Lauren Semple, who is part of the Pride Society here.
Well, she's in Glitter.
And she's in Glitter.
She's opening Glitter. It's the cast from the cabaret show that she did in Duncan.
It was so killer.
Yeah, the whole team's coming. We're so honored.
I'm so excited. Yeah, Lauren is a star. And Lauren is like a beacon for queer people here. She lifts up like so many lost young queer people who need to find a home.
I agree.
So I'm really glad she's involved. But so that was a couple of years ago, and then I sort of left it dormant for a bit, and I rediscovered this character named Celeste a year ago at Nanaimo International Jazz Fest. A friend of mine, Maya Wilson, booked me as the opening act to kick off the festival at the Nanaimo Bar here downtown, and I performed a one-person, one-woman show with Nico Rhodes as Celeste. And it was all kind of classic jazz songbook standards. So things that Ella Fitzgerald would sing, and mixed with some musical theater stuff too. And it was a really kind of a crystallization moment of going, oh, this is right. Doing this feels right. And even if it's not the only thing I do artistically, because of course I have my own musical career too, as a manifestation of my like artistic interests and passions, Celeste is such a fun vessel for that. What a fun character to play. As an actor, to me, I sort of consider her a character. And
well, it's very captivating. I toyed with playing a video of you as Celeste, but I decided not to because I want the audience to buy tickets to Glitter so they can see it and be surprised.
Love.
We are going to drop a video of another song that you've produced. What is that video that we're sharing?
Yes, so I wrote a song for my first album a number of years ago, and the song is called Brand New. And I actually wrote that song for my mom, which is why it was the first one that was released off the album as a single, and the little music video that was shot here on the island for it too.
So back to Nico Rhodes, just saw his big concert, Hullabaloo. This guy's ultra talented.
I know.
Seems like a great guy. Haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but you're performing as a duo. How did that relationship come to fruition?
We met when Nico, oh gosh, if he watches this, I hope I get it right. I think he was around 18 and I was about 10 or 11, maybe. And he at the time was the accompanist at Unity Spiritual Center here in Nanaimo. He was their piano accompanist. And also, he's an amazing saxophonist. I'd seen him play saxophone too. And we met after one of the services, and he and I just really kind of hit it off musically, talking, even with the age difference. And then later, he hosted some musical theater workshops at Headliner's Studio, which was where I first started here in town, doing youth theater. And when he hosted that workshop, the two of us really kind of bonded. And as I've grown into adulthood, and both of us have, you know, we're both evolving into like the new versions of ourselves, we've become kind of like musical siblings where we get to work together all the time and also just hang out and cut up and have a great time together. We have a very good chemistry, I think.
Oh, I think so. I'm very excited to see you both performing at Glitter. So if you want to see Joshua and Nico Rhodes perform at Glitter, please go to glitterevents.com, check out the website. There's a tremendous amount of talent. It's also being supported by the local retailers, fashion designers, drag artists, circus performers, hairdressers, makeup artists. There's over 100 people uniting in the spirit of giving and supporting at-risk youth. So we need your support, but it's also going to be a tremendous evening of talent. All right, Joshua, so what can the audience expect to see with the up-and-coming year? What's on your agenda?
This year coming up, I'm lucky that I've got a pretty diverse range of opportunities that I'm excited to participate in. One of them is releasing my second album, just as myself, as a musician, as Joshua Holloway. It's actually fully produced and done. I'm lucky that I am able to produce a lot of it myself. It's entirely self-produced, actually, just at home with a keyboard and an audio workspace.
We've come a long way since the 70s, right?
No kidding. And I mean, I love being in a studio too, but because my first album was produced during COVID and we couldn't go into studio spaces, I realized that I was capable of doing that, and so I've really caught the bug for self-producing. So second album coming up in the latter half of this year, very excited for that. And as far as drag is concerned, I'm really lucky that I have a little bit of a drag family here on the island. Spicy Pie is one of the drag queens here in town, and she's kind of my drag mother. And she's been offering me some bookings here in town, so those will be coming up. I don't have a ton of details on them yet, but definitely follow Nanaimo Drag on Instagram to find out where I might be next. And I'm lucky that I have some opportunities to perform as Celeste at the Rio Theatre in East Vancouver.
Oh, when's that?
The next one is actually on July the 21st, so it's before Glitter, or sorry, 31st, July 31st for Pride season, and I'll be performing with another drag queen named Leviticus, which is a great name. And Leviticus and I are going to be doing an homage to Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand and singing Happy Days as a duet, because we both sing. So I'll be Barbara and she'll be Judy Garland. Very excited for that. So yeah.
So if the audience wants to listen to your music, how can they find this, or where are we going to find you?
Yes, I would recommend, if you're just on Google, if you just look up Joshua Holloway music. Luckily, there aren't a lot of other Joshua Holloway musicians specifically. You might get the actor from Lost, because the lead actor, you might get Josh Holloway, but Joshua Holloway music will take you right to where all of my music is on Google. You can look me up on Spotify or Apple Music as well. If you want to find me on Instagram, my handle is Joshua Holloway Music. And when you go find me on Instagram, you'll actually see a little connection in my bio for my drag, which is Call Her Celeste. And that's where you can keep up with my drag stuff too, sort of that runs in parallel with my original music.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, so, we're sort of coming to the end. I can't believe it. The time goes by so quickly,
really?
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
I always ask my guests, if you could give a message or say something to the audience, what would you like to share?
Oh my gosh. Knowing that this is in support of Foundry and a lot of at-risk youth, including queer youth, are going to be benefiting from this and might even see this, I would say, know that family, as I have come to discover, family comes in all shapes and sizes. And whether you're queer or not, or part of the LGBTQ plus community or not, chosen family is really, really important. And the friends that you make through what you love are the friends you have for life. And they will see you for who you really are. So to anybody watching who is going through something right now or feels like they're completely misunderstood, especially youth, it's important to know that you're so, so loved. And there's a whole world out there of people who you have yet to meet, and it could be tomorrow. You meet just the right people that are for you. And once you do, you realize that the whole purpose of being on the planet and making art is for the sake of community. Art is an incredibly, whether it's musical theater or drawing or anything, it's inherently collaborative, and art is at its best when it's collaborative. And it's one of the things that makes me most excited about Glitter, so please come out. It's gonna be like everyone from every discipline in one room.
I agree. And I'm just gonna quickly say, and I've said this before, it takes one individual to save a child's life. And if you are watching this program and you are an aunt or an uncle or a neighbor or a friend and you know someone who is LGBTQ and you can see that their family is not accepting or perhaps they're not doing well, reach out. You could possibly save their lives. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Upfront. We're going to leave you with a music video, Joshua Holloway. I will look forward to seeing you next time.
Another year gone by, it seems like I just opened up my eyes. But now I find myself inside a different body, one that is wise. And if you ask me how I made it this far, God knows that I can't tell you. But in this time I've seen the world transform in ways you wouldn't believe were true. It's been a while, reasons to of my spirit taking off and dancing in between the atmosphere, and setting free the worry, fear, and doubt, those silly things I once held near. And if you ask me how I made it this far, God knows that I can't tell you. But in this time I've seen the world transform in ways you wouldn't believe were true. It's been a while, reasons to smile, and if it's true, I feel brand new. We're on our way, reasons to stay. If I'm with you, I'll feel brand new. Another year gone by, it seems like I just opened up my eyes. Opened up my eyes. Opened up my eyes.